Hello and welcome to Go Ballistic, where it has been a big old weekend in Scottish football, especially Saturday and especially even more Sunday, Roger. Incredible developments at Ibrox yesterday. Philippe Clement is now out of a job officially. What was your immediate reaction?
Not surprising. Our chief football writer Robert Gray broke the story online yesterday afternoon. I had been at Ibrox on Saturday, and he looked a defeated man. He looked as if he was just almost asking the Rangers board to put him out of his misery. The performance, if you can believe it, Jonathan, was actually worse than the performance against Queen's Park in the previous game at Ibrox. He's clearly had lost the players, and when that happens, when you see performances like that, there was an end of days feel about it on Saturday night, and his Rangers career ended yesterday.
We obviously spoke here just 7 days ago, and one of the questions asked you was there anything he could do to win the fans back? And short of beating Celtic twice, there were very few answers you could find for that. As you just mentioned, end of days, end game, that was very much how it felt. And after Saturday, there was never any hope he was ever going to win the fans back.
I think the fascinating thing now will be to see how those players perform without Clement. You can see little bits and individual players that you think, he's decent. But clearly under Clement, they were going nowhere. And it's now up to the players to show that they are decent and they can perform, and they might get a new lease of life under either an interim manager, which looks likely in the short term, or a permanent gaffer.
Now this decision, as you mentioned, Clement was putting it on the board, came just a couple of days after Patrick Stewart once again had gone public about things, once again almost delivering reasons why he wasn't going to sack Clement. So what do you think changed from his point of view just a couple of days later that he had to absolutely make that decision?
Listen, the Rangers board, Patrick Stewart, Fraser Thornton, everybody there, they tried their hardest to give Philippe Clement every opportunity to save his job. There were times at the start of January, or end of December I should say, before the Old Firm win, when you thought he's really on borrowed time. And he got the Old Firm win and he got through and then managed to take Rangers into that top 8 in that Europa League group. Every time he looked set for the sack, there was just something that kept him going. But after Saturday, it was the point of no return.
Well, that was Clement, Roger. He is now, of course, gone, and incredible developments at Ibrox. What a couple of days it's been, because we now know who is going to be the interim manager, is of course Barry Ferguson, making an incredible return to Ibrox in charge for the rest of the season, and he's certainly not coming alone, is he?
No, quite a big backroom team. Barry will be head coach along with Billy Dodds, Neil McCann, Allan McGregor. Issame Charai is staying put, just recently installed, of course. Actually, I was at Ibrox on Saturday and I spoke to Billy Dodds, who was there covering the game for the BBC. Little did I know he was working undercover and just getting a look at the squad ahead of the game. But listen, Patrick Stewart and the board, they're clearly playing the popularity card. They know that when 4 former Rangers players come in, it'll buy them a bit of credit with the Rangers fan base. And it'll be fascinating to see how they go on, with the exception of Allan. They've all got managerial experience. Neil managed Dundee in the top flight. Billy managed Inverness to a Scottish Cup final just a couple of years ago. Barry was captain of Rangers, a title-winning captain of Rangers, worked under some of the great managers of the modern era, Dick Advocaat, Alec McLeish, Walter Smith. His managerial experience, obviously, in the lower leagues. And it'll be fascinating to see the dynamic of them all together and how they get on against the likes of Jose Mourinho and Brendan Rodgers.
Absolutely. Well, Mourinho v Ferguson is just a matter of days away.
Well,
really.
It's interesting because Philippe Clement doesn't like Mourinho's style, so we'll need to ask Barry what he thinks of Mourinho's style.
Or maybe ask Mourinho what he thinks of Barry Ferguson's style, maybe that's the next question that needs to be asked. So just for what I considered, you've mentioned the 4 guys, popular players with the fans at the time, that's also going to buy them credit there. Do you think, all things considered, it's quite a sensible appointment to make at this point in time as they look for the full-time manager?
It's interesting. I think they've got a bit of time. I thought that even before the announcement. The domestic season's gone for Rangers and they've done very well in Europe. They were in the top 8, they got to buy into this round of 16. To me, it doesn't really matter in their big picture how they got on in the Europa League. This decision to put the managerial team in to the end of the season buys them a bit of time to go and look and see who's available. There's already a root and branch look at what's happening at the training ground and at Ibrox. There's people like Neil McCann, who's just been promoted to a new role, will help Patrick Stewart, will help Fraser Thornton. They've got a bit of time to decide what they want to do. What will be fascinating, Jonathan, is if they beat Celtic twice and get to a Europa League final, how do they get rid of the interim team?
That's going to be a big question. What if he wins the Europa League even? He wouldn't be going anywhere. We'll see. Jose Mourinho and Fenerbahce to get through first, however. In terms of the permanent manager, is there any early contenders to talk about at this possible stage?
Contenders, I think the leading contender at the minute is Russell Martin. He's out of work. He took Southampton into the English Premier League. They didn't do particularly well. You may have noticed in the English Premier League. Prior to that, he had spells at Swansea, MK Dons. He had a brief spell at Rangers as a player, you will remember.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that would necessarily be the one I would pursue. I think there are guys who are probably better suited to taking on the task of Rangers manager, but we'll see what comes out. But, I think the links with Russell Martin are genuine.
Well, watch this space, and we very much will with interest. Just before we move away from Rangers, and of course Kris Boyd will be along in a few moments to discuss that as well. Very interested to see what he has to say. Just looking back at Clement's reign as a whole, what is his ultimate legacy at Rangers? What will be the lasting impression, do you think?
It's an interesting one because he's one of these managers. He started very brightly. He won a League Cup 2 months into the job. At this time last year, they were building a genuine push for the title until those games at Dundee and Dingwall, and it all fell apart. He then lost 2 cup finals to Celtic. Rangers fans will say they performed well in both finals, but they didn't win either of them. So Clement, his legacy will be probably that 1 League Cup and then never really fulfilling the promise of those early weeks.
And obviously he's now paid the price out of a job. Stick with Sunsport for all the very latest. There's going to be plenty of developments at Rangers over the coming days and weeks, but we'll quickly turn attention to Celtic. It's almost been forgotten about given the drama of yesterday, but it was a very much an off day for Celtic on Saturday as well. Just a second league defeat of the season at Hibs, but obviously all the conversation after it has been about, was the ball out, was the ball in? Brendan Rodgers very unhappy, accusing the VAR Alan Muir of guessing. One angle, it very much looks out. Another one, there's a lot of debate. So do you think the VAR really was in a position to make a definitive decision there?
Well, that's a bit a fascinating one. I can't wait for Willie Collum's next show when he discusses this. I can't wait for the KMI at the tail end of the week to look at it. I don't think, any of the views I've seen, I don't think you can say 100% that the ball was over the line. Now, if that's the case, then you can't overturn the on-field decision. If Stephen McLean and the linesman say no goal, then for me it has to be no goal. But when Stephen McLean and the linesman say it's a goal, I've yet to see a conclusive angle that would tell me that the VAR were right to intervene and right to overturn it. I think it should have been a goal.
Would you be surprised to maybe see Celtic not looking for an explanation here, maybe taking things further?
I don't know. I mean, we're at Monday lunchtime now. When it happened, early game Saturday, I actually thought this is going to be the talking point for days on end. Little did we know Rangers were going to seize the narrative, so to speak, Jonathan, over the weekend. So maybe the fact that Rangers have lost a manager, maybe Celtic will just let this one lie. Brendan Rodgers is speaking later today, actually, ahead of tomorrow night's game against Aberdeen. We'll probably find out more then. Another thing that has been missed, Celtic in the calendar year 2024 lost 2 games. They lost 1 to Hearts, they lost 1 to Borussia Dortmund. In 2025, they've lost 4 games, and we're only, at the tail end of February. So I think Brendan Rodgers will want to get Hibs out the way, and then, get 3 points. If they get 3 points against Aberdeen in televised game tomorrow night, 16 points clear.
Do you think there'll be any overarching concern from Brendan Rodgers given the performance on Saturday? Will there be any sort of worry that, given they don't have the European focus, they're so far ahead in the league, is there a chance they could maybe tail off? You obviously can't win every game every season, but will that be a concern to him, do you think?
It's a good point you make. You've seen that happening before with teams who have got enormous leads. Tomorrow night at home to Aberdeen, they'll want to win primarily to get the Hibs game out of their system. They then go to St Mirren on Saturday night. That could be tricky. St Mirren were really good at Ibrox. It's funny, when Rangers and Celtic lose, as they both did at the weekend, the teams that beat them hardly ever get any credit. It's all about the crisis at Celtic and the crisis at Rangers. But Hibs were good, and St Mirren were very good in their game. So St Mirren caused problems for Celtic on Saturday night. I think Brendan Rodgers will want to make sure he gets 6 points from these 2 games, leading into a very big game in the Scottish Cup against Hibs that will allow them to try and get a mark of revenge.
Intriguing couple of weeks ahead, and as Roger said, we'll hear from Brendan Rodgers today. You can get all of that across our social media channels. Now, just before you go away and speak to Kris Boyd on all of those big talking points, we're always on the lookout here in Go Ballistic for something a bit unusual that's happened in the weekend, and that was certainly the case between Annan and Alloa this weekend. Don't know if you saw this, Roger. 7-goal thriller. There was a 95th minute winner for Alloa. Cracking game, but the quirk here was the fact that both managers scored in the game. Willie Gibson, the Annan manager, scoring a penalty to put his side 1-0 up. Then Andy Graham goes and makes it 2-2 in the second half. And Annan put out themselves, any statos out there, can they tell us if 2 managers have ever scored in a game before? I certainly can't. I don't remember it.
Maybe that's where Philippe Clement went wrong on Saturday. He should maybe put himself on instead of Danilo or Nadim Bajrami. It was certainly more chance of scoring.
Well, unfortunately, that possibility's passed them by. Maybe that was the missing link, who knows. Thanks, Roger. You're going to go and speak to Kris Boyd. Yes. Look forward to see what he's got to say and all the drama from yesterday. As well, we say there's plenty of other good content across the Scottish Sun's YouTube channel, including Derek McGregor's brilliant one-on-one series. Last week, he spoke to former Aberdeen manager, current Raith Rovers boss Barry Robson. Here's a little clip of what he had to say to Derek.
All this thing now, when you're trying to sign a player and you've got agents involved and you need to do Zoom calls and you need to do this and you present this and you're doing this and we're trying to make everything right for the family and all the getting. Yeah, and I understand all that.
What did you get?
Got nothing.
Nothing?
I got nothing.
Really?
It was a deal done. And then I didn't even speak to Gordon on the phone, nothing. I got all the way down to Celtic Park, we're training. I got a message through saying, not even for Gordon, what time to train at. So I went, right, okay, made sure I got down there early. Walks into the front door at Celtic Park, just had my boots in my hand, a black bag. And then I says, oh, look, Barry Robson, I'm here to train, basically. Yeah, and then somebody says, oh, here's, the gaffer wants to see you. So I went through and I walked in and Gordon's sitting there, Gaz Pendy, and what do you call him? Gaz Pendy was there, and the big goalie coach was there as well.
Jim Blythe.
Yeah. Jim was there.
Yeah.
So we were sitting, they were sitting in there and Gordon went, oh, here he is, oh, look, you've been annoying me for ages. And then all of I heard was the door opening, in comes Tam Burns. I can't believe we've signed him. so he's coming in, he's saying that to me, and then they're like, oh,
they're wondering what's going on. What's
and then he's on, Robbo, you'll be fine. He says, the only way you're here is you keep annoying me. Every time Celtic played against you, you were smashing into my players, you were fucking playing these passes, and I'm fed up with it. So he just says, right, get him here. And that was it. And then he says, right, on you go, Robbo, we can go get changed.
So you've got Gordon Ginger, you've got Tommy Ginger.
And me,
That's
Ginger.
A factor.
Whoa, I'll tell you, that is a factor.
Fiery.
And it could be fiery, by the way, because Gordon was fiery, I was fiery, and Tam was funny. Tam was brilliant. Tam was outstanding at everything.
Well, we can now head over to Sun Sports. Kris Boyd. Boydie, what a weekend for Rangers. And we always think you're a standout, but you're particularly standing out today. We reckon you're about the only former Rangers player not involved in this new management team.
Roger, I couldn't leave you. I've got to keep the nation entertained elsewhere.
The suggestion was you wouldn't take the cut in money, but the ones who have agreed to Patrick Stewart's phone call, Barry Ferguson, Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, Allan McGregor, will be the first team management set up along with Issame Charai until the end of the season. Are you surprised at that, or is it a good call by the Rangers hierarchy?
No, I'm not. I'm not surprised, because I think when you look at it, it definitely needed characters to come in and lift the place, and that's exactly the guys you've mentioned there. Barry Ferguson, the career he had at Rangers, Allan McGregor, only finished a couple of years ago as well, and what he'd given to Rangers. Neil McCann, excellent player, and Billy Dodds as well. Through they've all played part in Rangers history and given so much to the past. But you're talking about now, and I think there's one thing, it will give the place a lift, because it was as flat as a pancake at the weekend. There's no doubt about that. And I think obviously a huge tie, shall we say, against Fenerbahce in a week's time. But a really important game at Kilmarnock on Wednesday night. And I know people will say domestically that there's not anything to play for, Roger. But if I'm a player, there's a lot to play for, because you've been criticised for so long now. There's another manager out the door. The players are going to have to now prove their worth. Going forward, I don't think that you can understand Barry, especially he'll go in there as the manager as such, or the head coach, whatever the term is. He won't want to embarrass himself. He'll want to go and win games of football because he's a winner. He's shown that throughout his career, and he will set demands. I think as a captain, there was a leadership there that he was a leader. He led from the front, and that's what he's going to have to do right now. And there is a lot still to play for Rangers, because for me, with a takeover on the horizon, there's a lot of these players playing for their future now.
Now, Barry, his managerial career so far, it's really just been in the lower leagues. He's now getting thrust into direct opposition to Jose Mourinho in the Europa League, Brendan Rodgers in the Premiership. Is it a big ask for Barry?
I think when you look at it, Barry obviously wanted to go down a different route, and a lot of ex-players will go to bigger clubs and maybe start off at youth level and try and get up through the ranks that way. Barry decided he wanted to go down to the lower leagues. What I will say is, I think if you go down there and it doesn't work, it doesn't really give you anywhere to go. But Barry decided to come away from that for whatever reasons. And I think, when you look at he's obviously been involved in the media and done well in that in recent years. But I think even when you listen to him, there's always been that burning desire to get back into coaching, to get back into management. And as I said to you, he is a leader. There's no getting away from it. You can't, the pressures and demands that is put on you as a Rangers captain for the number of years that Barry, wore that armband, not only for his club, but for his country as well. And, he will feel as if he is the man to lift the club from the doldrums, basically, again, because as I said earlier, I mean, it's as flat as a pancake. There's, the fans are fed up. There's one thing, he will get everybody back on side. The players need a lift. And, the guys he's got around him as well. Yes, you look at Barry, but Neil McCann's, as I said, I think in terms of his punditry, I really like listening to Neil. I think he speaks really well. I think he comes across really well. And he's done a good job at Dundee. He obviously was at Inverness as well. Billy Dodds, I think, did a terrific job at Inverness when you look back at the period that he was there. The playoffs, the Scottish Cup final. So there's experience there. Allan McGregor, coming back as well. As I said, an iconic goalkeeper for Rangers Football Club. There's no doubt about it. When you look at, but as I said, it's all in the past, Roger. It's all in the past. It's a different environment.
If it's a popularity contest, Boyd, you're not going to get four more popular, but obviously exception yourself, four more popular former Rangers players that, Ferguson, McGregor, Dodds, McCann, all winners over the last 25, 30 years at the football club. I'll paint you a picture. If Barry Ferguson and his backroom team manage to get 2 wins over Celtic, and if Barry Ferguson and his management team get past Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce and maybe into a semi-final of Europa League, is it going to be difficult for Patrick Stewart and the board not to extend this trial?
I kind of, when you look at what's happened, and when you go back to even last week when Patrick Stewart spoke, you kind of got the feeling, Roger, that Rangers were just going to continue till the takeover was done, and then there would be action taken. Yeah. All of a sudden, Rangers lost Queen's Park, went to Tynecastle, won the game, but the performance was terrible. Let's not get away from it. I mean, it was really, really poor. And then to put in the performance that was shown at Ibrox on Saturday, you kind of got the feeling that they were left with no decision, where they had to do something, the board, and that led to Philippe Clement leaving. You look at it now, and I still think that this is only going to be short term. Yes, you can go and win every game and see where that takes you. It will definitely give you a better chance, but I think longer term, Rangers will look to go down a different route. Maybe the owners, the new owners, will want to come in and have they've obviously had a look at everything right now. But you'd imagine they will want a huge say in what's going forward. How much of a say have they had in this? We don't know. Are they involved in what's going on right now? Because there is no doubt the last week has damaged the Rangers brand. There is no doubt about that when you look at the performances of Queen's Park, St Mirren, and obviously beating Hearts, as we said, but the performances were really poor. So the place is low, and there's no doubt the guys will lift it. And if they can put in, if they can get performances and get the fans back on side and see where it takes them, you never know. But I would be astonished if long term that this is the way Rangers will go forward.
We'll take training for the first time tomorrow. They've got a game at Kilmarnock on Wednesday night before a game at Ibrox against Motherwell on Saturday. What will they find? Are these players any good? They've shown in flashes, the 3-0 against Celtic, performances against Tottenham, against Manchester United, some of the other performances in Europe. They've shown in flashes they can be decent. Are they going to turn up for Barry Ferguson?
Yeah, I think they will. I think they will. It's really important that Barry goes and gets them on side. I will say that because when you look at Philippe Clement, I think when you look at the performances, the big games Rangers have been able to get themselves up. The players have been able to get themselves up for it. And for me, that might be a selfish thing of you don't want to be embarrassed. When you're coming up against better opposition, that you give that little bit more. But when you look at it now, the players are left with really nowhere to turn now because another manager has seen the door. They need to start performing. It's all well showing up and putting in performances in Europe and against Celtic the odd occasion. But your bread and butter's beating St Mirren, beating Queen's Park. These are the ones where you need to show that you're a Rangers player. Churn out results every single week. Celtic have got plaudits for the way that they have performed over a period of time consistently. That means turning up for your work every single game and performing. Rangers haven't done that, and they need to get back to that.
Will there be changes? Will he look at the squad? I mean, Rafael Fernandez has hardly been seen since he came in on loan from Lille. Could he go for Ridvan Yilmaz ahead of Jeff Day? Would Nedim Bajrami come back into his thoughts? Or Tom Lawrence? Could Danilo get a start up top at Kilmarnock? Will he make changes?
Well, I think when you it's the old cliche of a clean slate for everyone, and I think it has to be because Barry's he's been in and about the club, hasn't he? He's an ambassador there. He's been in. He's seen the performances. He'll know exactly what's been going on. He'll have spoken to people. There's no doubt about that. The other guys who we've spoken about as well are covering the games in the media, so they will have seen enough that they will feel as if they know exactly what's going on. Listen, they need to get a reaction from the players. I'm sure they will get that. The thing is with the Rangers squad right now that there isn't a lot of places where they can chop and change. I think that there is an imbalance in the squad that has probably led to Philippe Clement's struggles as well. And you then look at I think this, and I've touched on it. If Barry can get the players on side pretty quickly, he will get an upturn in results. There's no doubt about it because, as I said, and I've said it numerous times on this, I've said it on Sky, Roger. I think there was a real lack of trust from the players to the manager and the manager to the players. Hence the reason why there was so many changes week in, week out, or even at half time there was people whipped off. The interviews after the game, you kind of felt as if, and I know if I was in that dressing room and I was listening to my manager speak the way that he did half the time, you would always think, what's going on here? I don't think you'll get that type of nonsense coming out of Barry's mouth. And looking at it, I think he surrounded himself with people that have been in management, have been in coaching for a long period now, and that and Billy Dodds and Neil McCann, and that can only help. That can only help. Plus, Roger, the key thing is as well, they've all been players at the football club and they know how to handle the pressure. And I think that's where Philippe Clement cracked. He couldn't handle the pressure. Barry Ferguson has been under pressure all his career, all his Rangers career. Nothing's going to change. And he will know exactly how to handle it.
You're going to Rugby Park Wednesday night. You're also
I'm going to take my boots.
A former Kelly legend, I was going to say. You're close with Derek McInnes. What's in Derek's mind? Would he rather have faced the Philippe Clement Rangers that was spoiling so badly, or would he rather face a Rangers with a new management team in charge?
No, I think you would always want to face the departing manager. There's a reason why managers get changed, and that's because a team's underperforming. I'm not one for buying into the old. You get this. The new manager bounces such. You need to go in and put your implement your style and all you hear is, when you've got a new manager, it doesn't mean that you're 100% going to win the game. There might be an increase in terms of the percentage of effort that players put in because they want to impress the new manager. So you would imagine that you would see a totally different Rangers team. Maybe the personnel's the same, but in terms of effort, because that looked as if it was lacking on Saturday against St Mirren. So you would expect Rangers to play at a higher tempo, get after Kilmarnock, close them down. But saying all of that, Roger, I mean, this is a team that has struggled at Kilmarnock in the past. There's been stronger teams than this struggled at Kilmarnock in the past. As I said there, I think Derek would rather have faced, Philippe Clement, in charge in his Rangers team, because it looked as if it was a team that was, as flat as a pancake, as I've touched on 2 or 3 times now. But you would expect Barry and the rest of his staff to get a reaction and a lift from the players. And if they do that, they've got more of a chance of winning this game. But it ain't going to be easy, because Kilmarnock at home can cause problems. And as I said, they've caused problems to far better Rangers teams in this one.
I watched you in your Sunday job yesterday in Sky Sports. You described Philippe Clement as an energy zapper. Now that he's gone, Boydie, what is his legacy? How will Rangers fans remember Philippe Clement?
To be honest, Roger, I think the interviews after the game, I really do. I mean, some of the stuff he came out with was some of those comedy sketches you see in some of the, whether it's Instagram or X, or play like managers that are managing non-league things, and they'll do it for a laugh and a joke. I mean, that's what it was half the time when you listen to Philippe Clement after the games. When you actually look further into it, it's more or less a carbon copy of his time at Monaco as well. Done okay against the better ones, but really struggled against the teams to go and break them down. I thought at the weekend there was no urgency to Rangers play, and that has been the case for a long period now. So if you're asking me to sum up his time in charge, if you were right back to the start, I think the way he came in, there was no nonsense coming out of his mouth. He was straight talking and delivered results. It was an underperforming team back then as well, under Michael Beale. He was able to get a reaction out of them. But the longer it went on, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to sound as if it's a cheap shot, but you just kind of got the feeling that it suited Rangers to be playing Thursday, Sunday, because they weren't on the grass a lot. I think when you look at Rangers' performances when they had a full week's training, it was really poor. And I think that tells you all you need to know. That, and we've all questioned Rangers' style and the way they went about games. What was really happening? Was there a style of play? Was there a game plan? Was there, was there enough there information for the players to go and break down the opposition, to go and create opportunities, to play at a tempo? And I'm not quite sure there was. But you go back to that period last year, and I think Philippe Clement has spoken about his time at Rangers, and he said it often enough that they've had to cost cut. They've like the wages, they've had to bring the age down. He has brought the age down, but in terms of him speaking about this young team, it's not a young team. I mean, he's brought the average age down. In terms of cost cutting, I can totally understand where he's coming from for that, because a lot of the big hitters went out the door, but he has spent money. Robin Proper, I don't think he's set the place alight, has he? Bajrami, in and out the team. There's been other ones. Jefty, I think, has been up and down as well. Cortez, I mean, we still don't know where he is. So there's been a lot of players coming in that there's been money spent on. And listen, there's a recruitment team in place at Rangers as well that have got, Philippe Clement has lost his job. I think there's a lot of other people maybe, start to look over their shoulder now as well, because we touched on this regarding this root and branch. For me, it's the future owners doing their due diligence on the football club. I think there'll be a lot more, will go pretty soon as well, because it's been an underperforming club for a number of years now, and it needs to get back to what it was and challenge at the top, running Celtic all the way, asking questions of them. Celtic have had it far too easy for far too long now. But what I will say is, if this takeover happens as well, Roger, it's going to be an exciting time for Scottish football. Celtic, the way they are, with money to spend, Rangers, if the takeover goes through, you look at Hearts with Jamestown Analytics, they seem to be improving. Hibs are definitely improving. And you would imagine, with the Bournemouth connection there, you've got Aberdeen. Dave Cormack's chucked a lot of money as well. So our 5 big clubs are potentially going to be back, pushing each another. And that can only be good for Scottish football.
Boyd, that's brilliant. Thanks very much indeed. Just tell you, if you see Patrick Stewart's name in your phone this afternoon, don't answer it because I'll demand a fee. Thanks very much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.